Greetings, good evening, brothers. How you guys doing? Hope everybody is well tonight. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I guess daylight savings has messed with the time zones on YouTube. Because this is the normal time that we go live-ish for the stream. Sorry about that. I know some of you guys have been chilling for like an hour. I do really appreciate you hanging out and waiting. And, yeah, I think I had something else to say. It'll come back to me. But regardless, we are here to do the Army List show, which we do every Sunday night. So thanks for being here. If you do enjoy the show at any point, or you feel like you get some value, do always appreciate it if you hit that like button, or you can subscribe as well. Both things are super appreciated. So, one of the things I wanted to say was I've had a few comments this week on people asking how they submit their lists for this show. Because I guess we haven't gone over in a little while, and there's a lot of new members. We're still creeping up in terms of new subscribers, so that's nice. What you do is you head over to Blood Angels Commander. So it's youtube.com/c/Blood Angels Commander. You get something like this. If you are new here, these are all the playlists on my channel. There's tons of good content there, so you can jump into it. But tab over onto the community tab. And over on this community tab, the latest community post, in this case, it's the one about voting for Reavers or the Hammerfall Bunker as the first unit to move forward in the elimination bracket. Just put your list as a comment into the latest community post, and I will find it from there. And if you haven't been keeping up with the bracket, then we are doing an elimination bracket to try and see basically what is the worst. The worst Primaris unit, I think, is the aim of this elimination bracket. There are 3 more votes coming up in the next few days. Hammerfall Bunker is smashing those Reavers right now. We have Primaris Ancients versus Suppressors coming up. Then it'll be followed by Veteran Intercessors via the Firestrike Servo Turret and the Impulsor against the Repulsor. Make sure you vote in each of these, and we will eventually crown what we think is the best worst Blood Angels unit of 9th edition, or the best worst Primaris units of 9th edition. Okay, cool. So that's what you need to do. Today we've got 3 lists. They're submitted by Nick Smith, Will Cherry, and Nedwig 747. We always do 3 lists on the Army Show every week. Next week, at the moment, we have... no, wrong folder. Next week we have Steve T. and I think that must be Oskin Ramaka. I'm sorry if I say anyone's name wrong. I do really I do apologise for that. But we also have... so if you are a channel member, the time for your list queue is about 1 or 2 weeks before you get reviewed. If you are a non-member, then the time is quite a lot longer, like 6, 8, maybe even 10 weeks. There's a... is it okay to just resubmit a list now that I'm a member? You can 100% pause, or you can just poke me on Discord and tell me when you submitted the list roughly, and I'll bump you up so that you get done next week. That's not a problem. Cool. Okay, so... And then the last bit of news is... and it's probably a tiny little bit of small news. Tomorrow night... I should have probably done that when I was on the channel page, but... tomorrow night we've got the first game of Drukhari on the Blood Angels Commander channel. I've never played Drukhari on the channel before, apparently. And the lists are already in the video description. I'm going to be running a Death Company Captain on a bike, along with my regular Chapter Master on a bike, and Mephiston. And the Drukhari player obviously has Archon, so that's why there's a picture of an Archon here. So, it should be an interesting game. Really, I'm not that familiar against Drukhari. So tune in tomorrow night, 7:30 UK time, so roughly 2 hours earlier from it is now. Drukhari, is that how... how do you say it? How should I say it? Drukhari? Could I just call them Dark Elder? That's what they were when I first started playing, so we could just be done with that. But good evening, everyone. Robert, Will, Sayable, Steve, Life RPG, thanks for being here. Good evening. Right, so let's get straight into it. We're going to be looking at a list from Nick Smith, which is our first list of the day, and he's got notes at the bottom for how he intends to play this list. Alright, cool. It is a battalion starting with 7 CP. We have Angel's Ascendant, we have 2 extra relics of the chapter, Strange it's listed that twice, but yeah, it should probably just list that once. Alright. Captain of the Bite, Gift of Foresight, Angel's Artifice, Chapter Master, Iron Resolve, Storm Shield, Thunderhammer, and he is the Warlord. Interesting choices. So, I guess the Angel's Artifice gives them that 2-up save, combined with the Storm Shield gives him a 1-up save. Angel's Artifice puts him on toughness 6, he's got reroll 1 save every turn. Iron Resolve gives him an extra wound, and puts him on a 6-up shrug. And the difference between Iron Resolve and Adamantium Mantle is very minor. So, I think both are absolutely solid choices for this Captain on the Bike. I prefer Adamantium Mantle, but I think that the maths say that like there's no difference really between Adamantium Mantle and Iron Resolve. So this is a fine way to run the Chapter Master. Kind of strange to not run Armor Indomitus though, just because unless there's a clear reason that you think Toughness 6 is a lot better than Toughness 5, and in my experience, the only army it's really good against is Death Guard, because they have that -1 toughness thing on you. So even at -1 toughness, you're still toughness 5. Unless you think there's a ton of value in Angel's Artifice, like the +1 toughness, then I think Armor Indomitus is just a better pick. Hey John, how do I post my army list in the most recent comments? Yeah, you 100%. You just exactly that's what I just said at the start of the stream. I guess maybe you tuned in a couple of minutes late. I remember Duke Harry. Whose line is it anyway? Reziol is one of my favorite, or I like Whose Line Is It Anyway, but it's one of my brother's favorite TV shows. I used to watch that all the time. Okay. Fun fact: Whose Line Is It Anyway was actually originally a UK TV show, I think, and America stole it. So just so you know. We then have a Reaver, or Lieutenant in Reaver armor. He is Master of the Vanguard. Master of the Vanguard. I have no idea what this is, actually. Let's have a look. I've never run Master of the Vanguard. Add 1 to charge rolls made for this unit. Each time this unit is selected to make a normal move, advance, or fall back, add 1 inch to the movement. So I guess the whole point is just to Phobos units within 6, add 1 inch to their movement. I assume that he's... Oh, that's my daughter up. I'll be right back. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I have to move her from one bedroom to another room when she wakes up. Lieutenant in Reaver armor. Yeah, so he does have the Phobos keyword, so he's getting +1 to his charge as well. What is a Lieutenant in Reaver armor? Is he that good? He's just got a combat knife, which makes 1 additional attack, so he gets, 6 attacks on the charge, but literally no AP. I guess he's got the Terror Troops aura. Has he got anything else that's cool? He's been given a 2-up save, and a 5-up invulnerable save. I mean, I guess that's okay. Interesting. I don't know if I really like the Lieutenant in Reaver armor. I mean, he's cheap, but I don't know if he brings all that much power to a list, does he? Will, you sent me an updated one on YouTube, did you, Will? Was it Canadian? It might have been Canadian. I mean, the Canadians could have stolen it from us as well, but originally, I believe, Whose Line's the Enemy first came out in the UK. When did you send an updated list, Will? Let me see what date I've got this. I've got it updated on the 22nd of February, so if you sent it since then, can you DM me it on Discord? Okay. I'm not sure I like this Master of the Vanguard. You're giving yourself +1 to your charge, but you're not going to do a whole heap of damage anyway. I mean, I guess let's see what Phobos units he's got. We have a Tech Marine who has Firstborn Tech Marine with Master of the Forge, and he's running Quake Bolts. Unless you 100% can't find the 10 points for the Primaris Tech Marine, the Primaris Tech Marine is like a lot better than the Firstborn, right? Like, if you compare them, for 10 extra points, you're getting like, you're getting 1 extra wound. I think you're getting 1 extra attack. You're getting 2 extra attacks with your Mechadendrites. You're getting a pistol you can shoot in addition to your assault bolter. And your assault bolter is obviously like a lot better than a bolt gun, and it can still go with quake bolts. And because it's assault, you can now move, advance, and shoot a quake bolt. So you just get like better threat range and all for the quake bolt. So I used to run a Firstborn Tech Marine with Master of the Forge, but I think if you kind of have to buy the Primaris Tech Marine. For 10 points, he's just a lot better. It kind of sucks if if you don't have one, but I mean, that's the reality of the situation. Okay. We then go into troops, and we have like a giant 10-man squad of assault intercessors. The sergeant is carrying a Thunderhammer. 10 power level on these. I mean, the best way I could see to run like a giant squad of assault intercessors is to put them into reserve, probably. Like, otherwise, I don't really know how you're getting them across the board to make attacks and stuff. Yeah, I mean, assault intercessors for me, they're a fine unit, but I run mine out of reserve pretty much exclusively. 2 wounded Marines trying to get across the board will inevitably get caught out of cover and just get shot and killed. And I mean, they'll take heavy losses. They're just power armor isn't that strong. It's just a 3-up save. So 10-man assault Marines, I can understand why you've gone for the 10-man to do the honor the chapter and fight twice. We don't see it very often, but I can understand why you've done it. I mean, this unit will blend models that have like a poor save or something, but at the same time, it's going to be objectively difficult to get this unit to be in range to kill stuff. We then have a squad of incursors with the paired combat blades, totally standard, and then we have a 10-man squad of intercessors with bolt rifles. And I think this could probably be a 5-man squad. I mean, there's too many points spent in troops here. There's typically like 200 points spent in troops more than other people's lists. Intercessors with bolt rifles, in my experience, don't really do much damage. It's 10 shots. I guess it's rapid fire. 20 shots, strength 4, -1 AP. I mean, even if you're shooting other Marines, then what? And you get to rapid fire, 20 shots, you're hitting 15 times, you're wounding 7 times, they're failing their save 4 times, 3 times. So 200 points for a unit that does 3 wounds to an enemy squad of Marines. Bolters, we've seen the evolution of other guns in 9th edition, really. There's a lot of other better guns coming out now, and bolters have been left behind. Even bolt rifles, to a certain extent, are pretty poor in terms of actual killing power. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons Imperial Fists are bottom of the competitive scene, and they are a chapter that benefits from bolters, right? And they're actually the worst win rate in 9th edition. So I'd avoid running 10-man squads of intercessors. I'd just run them as 5 if you have to run them, or better yet, just run another squad of incursors. Reziel says, I prefer the Phobos Lieutenant. There's some weird disconnect with abilities between the 2 models. I'm not actually really familiar with the Lieutenant and Phobos armor either. What does he have that's different? Oh, he has the paired combat blades? Alright, so I actually like him more. just because he can actually have the potential to do some killing because he's got -1 AP. I think 0 AP sucks. I mean, I noticed this list has Reavers in it further down, so we'll get onto them, but Reavers are, a lot of people feel like Reavers are kind of terrible, and they just don't kill people. So we got Furioso Dreadnought with the Meltagun and the Blood Talons. It's kind of fine. I'd almost try and find the points to make it a Death Company Dreadnought. You sent it over. Perfect. Well, thank you. So I'd probably try and find the points to make it Death Company. I just think it would be stronger. Furioso is kind of so this is just gonna overwrite everything that you sent me before, Will, right? Yeah, Furioso is kind of, it doesn't have the core keyword, which is sad. And what's the actual points difference between a Furioso and a Death Company? Like, it can't be much, right? Furioso Dread, Death Company Dread. Furioso comes in at 135 with the Melta and the Blood Talons. Death Company comes in at 140 with the Melta and the Blood Talons. Then I would, if you can, I'd just pay the extra 5 points and take the Death Company one. It's going to get basically one more attack because it's Death Company, and it's also going to get a 6-up Feel No Pain. Yes, it can't fall back, but like, there's not many situations where you're going to be falling back like a Dreadnought. So, well, yeah, I mean, if you're cutting down the squad of Intercessors, then you got 5 points easily to take this on to make this into Death Company Dreadnought. We have a Redemptor with a Stormbolter, the Heavy Onslaught Cannon, the Icarus Rocket Pods, the Onslaught Cannon, the Redemptor Fist. And I did some maths on this a while back, Nick, and you probably want to maybe try and watch some of my videos on Redemptors. But this Heavy Onslaught Cannon, on paper, maybe seems like it's good, but in reality, you're just much better having the Plasma Cannon, because if you have the Heavy Onslaught Cannon, you kind of like pigeonhole yourself into just being able to kill like infantry or whatever, right? But if you have the Plasma Cannon, you obviously can like kill vehicles as well as infantry, and if the enemy does have big squads of infantry, like 6+ or 11+, then the heavy Plasma Cannon is blast, right? So you're going to get at least 3, or potentially you're going to get the maximum 6 shots. So like 6 shots with a heavy Plasma Cannon against like 12 shots on a heavy Onslaught Cannon. Like, I'd say that like let's say you were killing Marines or something, you're probably actually going to end up killing more with the Plasma Cannon, right? Because people aren't going to generally get a save against the -4 from the Plasma Cannon, right? So drop the Blood Talons and even more room to swap. Yeah, I mean, Blood Talons are kind of expensive for what they are. Foz, you're right. Furioso Fists are kind of absolutely fine. Panai? I'm not even going to... Pana, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I can't say your name, dude. I'm terrible at names. But appreciate the super chat. If you send a super chat, please leave a message if you want. You're more than welcome to, and I will read it out. Okay, so yeah, Heavy Onslaught Cannon is fine. I just think the Plasma Cannon is going to give you a lot more versatility, and it's still going to be able to do just as much against like infantry-based armies, unless we're talking about like Poxwalkers, and you really don't need to be building your list around like killing toughness 3 models with no save and stuff like that. So, or maybe Nurglings. Would a Heavy Onslaught Cannon be good against Nurglings? Actually, it probably wouldn't be good against Nurglings because they get an extra Feel No Pain against 1 damage weapons. So yeah, I don't know what a Heavy Onslaught Cannon is really good against. I think the Plasma is the right choice. And I've got a bunch of Redemptors with Heavy Onslaught Cannons painted, but like I just don't find myself running them. We then have a 10-man Reaver squads, and the Reavers have the Reaver Grav Shoots. I don't run Reavers enough. The Grav Shoots gives them ability to outflank. And when it makes a normal move or a fall back, vertical distance doesn't. So it's essentially kind of like it flies when they make normal moves or fallback moves, because they can just move over other models, essentially. Well, no, they can move over terrain. I guess it's not other models, so it's not quite like fly. My problem with the Reavers, and I guess you've got them armed here with bolt carbines, so 9 with special issue bolt pistols, and the sergeant's got the bolt carbine. So, I mean, I guess you've got them with the knives. I'm a little confused why it says bolt carbine, and then it says special issue. Oh yeah, the sergeant's allowed to take the bolt carbine and the combat knives, and all the other guys take the special issue bolt pistol and the knives. I remember this. Good evening, Krychek. Yeah, thanks. I'm doing well tonight. Thanks for hopping in the stream. Reavers are... I did a video about them just this week about how I think they are literally some of the worst. They're the coolest looking models, but they have the worst rules. If it was Pistol 2, maybe I'm interested. If it was Combat Knife with -1 AP, maybe I'm interested. As such, they don't have enough pistol shots to kill stuff. They don't have enough AP to kill stuff. I mean, the way I see this list is you've got like Assault Intercessors, which can kill infantry. You've got Intercessors, which can kill infantry. You've got 600, another 200 points of Reavers. So you've spent like 610 points on units that are just going to kill the weakest of the enemy's army. So I don't like a Reaver squad. Period. A 5-man even I don't particularly like, but 10-man Reaver squads, I feel like we could take 100 points from there and put them to somewhere else. So if the moment we save 100 points on the Intercessors, we save 100 points on the Reavers. Let's see where else this list goes. Panan says, "Hello brothers, just lost 40 to 51 via Chaos Space Marines last day, but left only a Rhino and a Spawn to the opponent." It can sometimes be annoying, Panan, when you basically kill all their models, but you lose the game on like secondaries or primary points or whatnot. That's just possibly bad luck or possibly inexperience on playing some of the maps. And I've been there, you know, I've been at games where I basically, against Death Guard, for example, like I killed like basically Cullen's entire army and then lost the game by like 20 points. So, and again against Necrons, I've killed them off the table and lost the game by like 20 points. So there's a fine line to walk between scoring well and killing the enemy. I guess you have to remember that killing isn't the main objective of 9th edition, right? We then have a large squad of Sangre Guard, and this is 10, and it's all axes and bolt guns. Then we have a large squad of Vanguard Veterans, and it's all Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. And let's see what he said. Intercessors and Assault Intercessors for shoot and stab and killing if needed. Incursors for guerrilla shenanigans. Retrievers for turning off opponents' actions. I guess that's a very edge case that Reavers can do. Sanguines and Vanguard Vets for super stabby charge. Furioso for elite stabby tank. Redemptor for elite shooty tank. Well, if you think the Redemptor's elite shooty tank, you 100% need to change out to the Macroplasma. Tetmarine for dread repair and quake bolt shenanigans or whatever else needs accuracy when they stab. Inexperience on my part in secondaries. No, I hear that, Panan. I actually did 2 videos on secondaries in the last few weeks. I did one on basically what secondaries are scoring the highest points, and I also did one on what secondaries you should probably pick on every map. So maybe if you check out those videos. And I was thinking maybe I need to make a cheat sheet to help myself, but also to share with you guys. So it's like, if you're playing a specific map, you could just look at the cheat sheet and be like, oh, okay, these are secondaries that might be good. 3 damage weapons on this list. You've got the Captain on the bike. You've got a Thunderhammer in the Assault Intercessor squad. You've got a couple on the Furioso. You've got a couple on this Redemptor. So you've got about 6 3 damage weapons. I've been recommending now, as the meta moves on, that you need 15 3 or more damage weapons in your list. So 6 to me feels like it's not going to cut it. We talked about cutting 200 points of stuff out of here. With the 200 points of stuff, we could get some Thunderhammers into the Vanguard Veteran Squad, for sure. We could get an Inferno Pistol or 2 into the Sangre Guard. We could add a couple of land speeders maybe with multi-meltas. They're good for engaging all fronts and potentially like holding objectives when you lose some stuff. You could also, I know it's not going to add to your 3 damage weapons, but you could also include a whirlwind here as a way of securing your backfield. You could upgrade your Tech Marine to the Primaris version. Like, he is a lot better. You made a cheat sheet for yourself and find it useful, says DTM. I would love it if you would share what that might look like, so I could do something of a similar format, DTM. I've been using the slides I made from a few weeks back to try and help me, but it's not in a great format. The Lieutenant and Reaver armor, giving you +1 to the charge for Phobos units. I mean, the only Phobos unit you have is your Incursors, and you said, oh, I mean, I guess the Reavers... But Reavers don't do any damage, that's the problem with them. They do less damage than an equivalent size squad of Assault Intercessors, and usually when I charge stuff with my Assault Intercessors, you're lucky if you kill a couple of models. So by that reckoning, you put the Reavers in against anything difficult and they kill one model, so that's why I don't like them. Yes, you have -2 to leadership around them, yes, you have the Lieutenant and Reaver armor also giving -2, but it doesn't matter because the enemy only lost one model or something like that, so it's not particularly scary. They maybe they lose one more in leadership. Mike says, I've just finally arranged to play a game on my local club for the first time since I moved to where I am, and now my opponent is another Blood Angels player. Nice, Mike. Well, let's hope he doesn't watch the channel, right? And you should have an advantage. If he does watch the channel, then you guys can bro out, I guess. There's a lot I would change in this list, I guess. Like, Lieutenant and Reaver armor, I just think you would get a better character in there. Especially if you just want a character that could kill stuff. I don't hate the 10-man squad of Assault Intercessors because I think you could reserve them and fight twice. I think that could be decent, but I do hate the 10-man squad of Intercessors. I think that should just be another squad of Incursors, or if you don't have the models, 5-man Intercessors. I feel like you probably do have the models because Incursors come in boxes of 10 though, right? So I run 2 squads of Incursors. A squad of Incursors will outdamage a squad of Intercessors if they can get into combat, right? And the Furioso would probably be better as a Death Company Dreadnought. The Redemptor needs its weapon swapped out. I don't like 10-man Sanguinary Guards at the moment because I feel like they die pretty quickly and they're like super expensive to lose. I would recommend you make this a 7 to 9-man squad. I do like Vanguard Veterans a lot. I do prefer putting some Thunderhammers into the squad because I think you need damage output. Lightning Claws are great, but I do think Thunderhammers have a place in Vanguard Veteran squads, and like, depending on what you're up against, you can get some good value out of the Thunderhammers. And then I think if you cut the Assault Intercessor squad down, I'd almost be tempted to completely drop the Reaver squad. So that would give you like 300 points. Drop a couple Sanguinary Guards, you've got like, maybe even drop 3, so you're down at 7. So you've got 400 points. What would I do if this was my army and I had 400 points? I'd probably include like either a large squad of Blade Guard veterans, let's say 5 of them, or 2 smaller squads of 3, for like, that would be like 210 points, or include like a 5-man squad of Terminators. I don't mind if it's Assault Terminators or Terminators with bolt guns. I think both are good. Or even Tartos Terminators. The reason I prefer the Firstborn is because of the Teleport Homer, but you could do that and you could still have 200 points left over. What would I do with other 200 points? I'd maybe include a Whirlwind, I'd maybe include a Land Speeder. A multi-melt on the Land Speeder to add to that 3 damage weapon. And maybe I might even go... Maybe I might even lose like 1 or 2 Assault Intercessors as well and go down to an 8. You might actually only need to lose 1. You might be able to go down to 9. 9 and 10 doesn't make much difference. Include a couple of Thunderhammers on the Vanguard Veterans. I think all that would improve this list quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, the Warlord trait you've taken on this Reaver Lieutenant, I don't think there's a ton of value in it. I don't think giving him a improved armor save has a ton of value either, because, I mean, cancelling out your opponent's actions on paper sounds pretty useful, But I mean, I've never. Typically, if your opponent, let's say your opponent's scoring Nachman data or something, and you're able to cancel it out for one turn, like at best that's like a 4-point victory swing. Whereas, like, if you have a strong squad of guys that can come in and kill the opponent off the objective, they lose the objective, you take the objective, that can be like a 12-point swing. So I think I would rather focus on more killing power here than what I think is almost like cutesy. I don't have a better word for it. I think Reavers and minus leadership, I just don't think it's strong. I really don't think it's strong because you're relying on too many things. You're dropping down, you're needing to make charges. Once you've made the charges, you're needing to make hits and kills. And once you've made those hits and kills, then you're needing them to fail a leadership test. And there's just too many maybes there. And also, what if the opponent laughs at AP0? Well, all your attacks are AP0. So, like, if they're on a 2-up save or a 3-up save or something, you could just bounce off them and do no damage. Furioso Dreadnought, how will we get to the enemy? May I advise a Dreadnought drop pod? You could advise the Dreadnought drop pod. Another option would be to reserve the Furioso. Getting them across the battlefield is tricky at best. Probably reserve is going to be your best option. And especially if you come up against Tau or something, the second they see this thing, they'll just kill it. They'll kill it with like one shot. Maybe it'll take 2 shots, but they'll kill it so fast. The only reason I've stuck with them is I use Dante and it's fluffy to have with them. I mean, okay. I'm kind of on the fence with Sangre Guard. I'm still running a squad of them, but I have thought about swapping them out for Death Company. If Death Company could do actions, I would have probably swapped them out already. But I think my list at the moment, I'm going to have to check because I made a new list for tomorrow night and I haven't really, I don't remember how many 3 damage weapons I have in tomorrow night's list, but it's going to be well in excess of 10, I'm guessing. Because I think I have 3 Thunderhammers in my Terminators, 3 Thunderhammers in my Vanguard Veterans. I've got a multi-melta on a Landspeeder, so that's 7 already. I've got an Infernal Pistol on 2 guys and another Thunderhammer on my Sergeant, so that's 10. Then I've got a Contemptor with a Cyclone and a Multi-Melt and a Fist, so that's like 13. So yeah, I'm probably well over 15 3 damage or more weapons. You wouldn't want Death Companies doing actions. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't, but sometimes at the end of the game when things are strung out, you need every unit you can to do actions. Alright, let's score this list. Alright, so OBSEC holding, he does have a lot of troops and OBSEC stuff. I'm going to say it's like an 8.5. Anti-Horde infantry, this list's actually pretty strong. He's got a ton of stuff that can blend infantry at the expense of other stuff, I guess. Anti-Vehicle Monster, I think we said it had 6 damage or more weapons. Sanguinary Guard are kind of terrible if you come up against a -1 damage army, in that axes are just do no damage, or their swords as well kind of do no damage as well. Sanguinary Guard would be much better if they were actually D3 damage as opposed to 2, you know that? But I mean, that's neither here nor there, right? So I think Anti-Horde Monsters is about a 7. Mobility is probably pretty low, right? We have like Assault Intercessors that are walking, Intercessors that are walking, a Furioso who's walking, and the Tech Marine. I mean, I guess the mobility isn't too bad, but it's not great. And then we have no way to cancel Overwatch, we have no way to fight last, we have no denies. I guess we kind of are okay on units for actions. It's not great, but it's not bad. 3 damage weapons, we have too few. CP, we have just enough at 7, and then protection against mortal wounds, we have none. So in terms of like these things, I always say you can't score all of them, but you should try and score some of them. We're really only scoring that we have a decent amount of CP, so I'm going to say specialization is like a point off for no Overwatch, a point off, maybe a half point off for no fight last, a point off for no denies, a point off for units for actions, and then a point off for no protection against mortal wounds. So like you're probably down a 5 there. And I mean, that can be remedied reasonably easily. in that like you can take some warlord traits to help you out, like Soul Warden will help you out, taking a chaplain could help you out. I think that there's probably just too many Reavers and too many Intercessors. And probably a 10-man squad of Sangre Guard isn't as strong as it was 6 months ago. They really have fallen off, I guess. I tried, because I went to a tournament where I ran a 7-man squad, I think, of Sangre Guard, and then the next tournament I went to, I tried running an 8-man, but what it showed me was, when people, Sangre Guard jump in, they kill one unit, and then you try and consolidate them into cover or something like that. If you cannot do that and they're left exposed, the enemy just kill them. Doesn't matter if you have 7, doesn't matter if you have 8, they take so much damage, and they don't have great leadership either. The Sangre Guard just have leadership 8. Then they die and you lose them, and it really sucks to lose them at 32 points per model, right? Are you deliberately choosing multi-melt on your Contemptor for tomorrow, or was it a points issue? I've been using the multi-melt on the Contemptor now for 2 or 3 weeks, and I think it was a points issue, but it was also because I think if you want the Volkites to work well, you kind of need to go double Volcon, right? Because if you go single Volcon, let's say you go single Volcon, and even if you go like +1 to hit from a Tech Marine or something, you have 8 shots. So let's say like 6 or 7 of them hit, right? Let's go high. Let's say 7 of your 8 shots hit. And then the thing that fucked me at that tournament was I was fighting against Dread Knights. So Dread Knights have like a 2-up save. So I had 2 Volcons, so we're wounding on 4s and 6s are mortals, right? And at that tournament, I actually had 2 Contemptors with 2 Volcons, so I was shooting like 16 shots hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and then 16 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s and 2s. And like, the guy just failed none of his 2-up saves, basically. Like, they did nothing. It was horrific how little they did. And I guess, you know, you're shooting the Volcons, and sometimes when you shoot the Volcons, I've had it go both ways. I've had one arm of the Volcons do like 5 mortal wounds, and I've had other times where I've shot all 16 shots and done no mortal wounds. So I kind of just moved away from them because, like, yeah, they're cool when they explode a bunch of mortal wounds, but you know, like, I was at the top table of a tournament and I'm literally relying on like exploding 6s to win me the game, or to make me kills. I didn't get very many exploding 6s, and I was like, this should have remained a repressed memory. Well, it's fine. I think, and that was when Volcons were 5 points per model, or 5 points per arm. So by putting them up to 15 points per arm, it sort of made me start thinking, right, you're spending a lot of points here for something that is super swingy, and, you know, essentially to take a Volcon Dreadnought now, what is 170 points? And, like, it could swing 6 mortal wounds and they fail a couple of saves and you've done 10 damage, great, but the other side of it is it could do 0 damage. So I would prefer to just run something like a multi-melta, where, like, if I roll a wound, and multi-meltas are always scary, right? So at this point, the multi-melta is cheaper, and it's less points, and yes, I guess it's not going to be as good as horde-based lists, but I haven't been facing too many horde-based stuff. I guess I'm playing Drukhari tomorrow, which is probably going to have a shitload of models, so maybe this will have been a bad choice, but right now, for me, it's more about experimenting with stuff, because we've already talked, Blood Angels aren't in a great place, so experimentation is what we have to do, right? Okay, so let's talk about Will's list. And Will, this is a 1500 point list, so we don't see these all that often. Starting with 7 CP. We have the Primaris Chaplain on the bike with the Mantra of Strength, Gift of Foresight, Benediction of Fury, Iron Resolve, Angel's Exemplar, and he's the Warlord. Do you know, Benediction of Fury sounds actually pretty scary in a smaller 1500 point game. I prefer to keep my Chaplain alive and have him Angel Sacrifice. I think that's more valuable to me, or I think it'd just be more valuable in general than doing those 4 damage hits. But Some people do like Benediction of Fury. They like the extra AP. It's a tough one. I prefer. I've won a lot of games, I guess, or I've won a lot of combats by using like Angel Sacrifice in my Chapter Master, and part of that is having that ability to go on that 3-up save from Adamantium. No, from Armor Indomitus. But I understand. All right, you want to go offensive on your chaplain? That's fine. This is a good way to do it. I'm going to read the blurb at the end, if that's okay, Will. If I read the blurb first, I almost feel like I've got no context of the list, so it always confuses me to read the blurb first. So I'll read it after. Primaris Tech Marine, who is Master of the Forge, perfect. Yeah, I mean, you could easily add Quake Bolts here. It's a really good upgrade for him. You can actually also add Soul Warden here. It's also another really good upgrade for him, especially if he's hanging out with some Dreadnoughts. Soul Warden, giving them a shrug against mortals can be clutch against certain armies, and or depending on where we can be, it's two options. I've ran Quake Bolts and Soul Warden on my Primaris Tech Marine with good effect. I just started the Dante book. It's awesome so far. I'm guessing Lewis is possibly going to be Dante. Great so far, to the point where they lost the guy that drank the bad water. That is a great book, Arcan, 100%. I saw it just yesterday. So I recently picked up this. It was the last one on Amazon that I found. So I'm going to get into this next. I'm in the middle of my guilty pleasure is Star Wars books. So I'm finishing up a Star Wars book at the moment, but after that Star Wars book, and I like the old Star Wars stuff before all the new Disney crap. If you like the new Disney stuff, more power to you. It's just not for me, really. Yeah, so I'm going to get into Astaroth, but the 4 books, Arcan, there's the Dante book, the Devastation of Baal, the Darkness and the Blood, and the Astaroth book, all written by Guy Hanley? Whatever, Guy something. I think it's Haley. He's done some really good Blood Angel stories. I'm excited to get into that one next. We then have a 5-man Assault Intercessor squad with an upgrade, I think, a Power Fist. Okay. Power Sword would also be acceptable here, but Power Fist I think is fine. We have a Leviathan Dread with the Twin Volkite Cavaliers, which I like on the Leviathan actually. The Gravflux Bombard, 200 killer missiles, and the Siege Drill, and with the Meltagun, and I think that's the perfect ornaments. The Hunter Killers are bonus, but Gravflux and Siege Drill with the Meltagun is really good on Leviathan. I like that. I think I like it even more now that they put the Redemptor up like 10 points, because before there was quite a big gap. Like, it would be only 220 points if you didn't add the 200 killers, right? But I guess the advantage is that you can have the Tech Marine make the Leviathan +1 to hit and then shoot the Hunter Killers hitting on 2s. I think the Leviathan has got even better with them putting the Redemptors up 10 points. Honestly, don't think Redemptors need to go up 10 points, but it is what it is. Mike says he's reading that Arstrath book now. It's half done and it's on top of my baby's chest of drawers. I hope I'm not reading it to your baby, but good evening, Ollie. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so I think the Leviathan by proxy has kind of got quite a bit better because Redemptors went up. I honestly don't know why Redemptors went up. I think the only reason they went up is because Black Templars had them with like that mini transhuman and the 5-up invulnerable save. And we've been made to suffer because of Black Templars running like 3 of them in a list. I mean, I think it was valid for Blood Angels to run 3 Redemptors in a list, but I don't think it was broken on the scale of like a lot of the other armies that are broken. The big issue I have with the Redemptor is that the macro plasma is D6 shots. If this was like flat 3 or something, I think they would actually be a lot better. In some ways, it's kind of the same problem as like las cannons or whatnot, where I've said like if las cannons were 3 damage as opposed to D6, and the average of a D6 is 3.5, but it's like in a tournament play or something when you roll that 1, it's like, oh fuck, do I need to spend a command point? You don't really want to be blowing your command points on CP rerolls, I guess. We then have a 6-man Sanguinary Guard squad with 1 Infernal Pistol and a good mix of axe and swords. I think mixing is the best way to go, honestly, on swords and axes for Sanguinary Guard. We then have a Vanguard Veteran squad with all Lightning Claws, with the Sergeant with an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade. And I like... Did you come up with this yourself, Will, the Sergeant on the Relic Blade and the Infernal Pistol? Because this is a model that I made a while back. I thought it was a really interesting model because you basically get a really nice 2 damage sword and an Infernal Pistol, and it's really quite competitive in terms of like how many points. You stole it from me? Okay, cool, because as of late, I've actually been running my Vanguard Veteran Sergeant with, I think, a Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield, but I had been thinking, like, maybe I should go back to the Infernal Pistol Relic Blade. A neat trick that only got brought up to me recently, and I should have thought about it. You could actually Mastercraft this Relic Blade, right? So you could spend 1 point, make this guy the Angel's Ascendant, I think is the name of the strat, and give him... I should know the name of the strat, but I don't really use it that much. I'm sure it's called Ascendant. Use a stratagem before the battle. Select 1 Blood Angel's model that has the Sergeant, so it would be the Sergeant. You can give him a Mastercrafted weapon, or digital weapons, or a Quake Bolt, or whatnot. But yeah, you could give the Sergeant that Mastercrafted Relic Blade. That'd be cool. 3 damage Relic Blade. I mean, it kind of counteracts... You know, the Thunderhammer costs more points, and it gets -1 to hit. So yeah, you have to pay the command point at the start, but like it's pretty difficult for the enemy to choose. Yeah, you can play it on the Sergeant. So you could make your Relic Blade 3 damage, or you could make your Infernal Pistol D6+1. I think I would go with the Relic Blade because the Sergeant's going to get like 5 attacks, flat 3 damage. Pretty cool. And I was thinking, I need to actually check how many points in my list, because I guess a Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield cost 17 points. So an Infernal Pistol and Relic Blade is actually 2 points cheaper, and you get a more reliable 3 damage weapon out of it. And I think in like a 1500 point game, that'd probably be pretty good, right? Because yeah, I think that would... I mean, sometimes in a 1500 point game, the games are a bit more condensed. So sometimes if you've got like a Sergeant or something that can throw out a ton of extra damage like that, it could be pretty good. It makes them pretty expensive if you factor in the CP, though. It does, in a way, chip hazard, but if you think about it, if you ever needed to, let's say, CP reroll 1 hit on the Thunderhammer, then it's exactly the same. And you know, like, you've got Quake Bolts in this list, right? Or you could put Quake Bolts on this Tech Marine very easily. So, if you put Quake Bolts into the list, you could have that 3 damage Relic Blade hitting on 2s fairly easily. It's something to consider, I guess. We then have a couple of Attack Bikes with Multi-Meltas, and small point, this is like super small, will split your Attack Bikes into 2 squads. There's the only reason to have them as single squad, right, is if you've got if you've got a priest to resurrect them. Otherwise, by splitting them into 2 squads, it's, if you are going to start reserving stuff, you know, you could reserve them even easier because there's more points, or there's less power level to mess with. And the other thing about splitting them into 2 squads is when you bring Attack Bikes in, and when I played Attack Bikes, I usually bring them in from Strategic Reserve. If you got them as 2 squads, then it might be easier to fit the bases in, because if you bring Attack Bikes in, you know, they have to be 9 inches away from the enemy, but if they're within 12 inches, then that's half range from the Multi-Melta, so you get +2 to damage. So by having them in 2 squads, it might be easier to get them both in, to basically snipe an enemy characters. I believe it's 2 in a Vanguard. Oh, right, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you... For some reason, I guess I thought this was a battalion, because, yeah, okay. Okay, Inceptors are gonna do... It's fine. It's just a note if you ever have a battalion, I guess. Then I guess if you step this list up to 2,000 points and you do a battalion, then split the Attack Bikes up. Because I think it benefits you. Okay, good point. Inceptors with bolters. I like Inceptors with bolters. They've kind of been hit a little bit by the changes to engage in all fronts, meaning if you lose a single model, they don't do engage in all fronts anymore, which is really annoying. Also, they used to be a really good model for Nakwan data because they could arrive, they could perform Nakwan, they could still shoot. Descent of the Angels is obviously a good upgrade on them as well for 1 CP to let them hit on 2s. And then the Whirlwind with the Castellan launcher. Okay. DTM says having them in one squad can be useful if you bring a Chapter Master. Yeah. I mean, a Chapter Master or a Priest are the only reasons to have them in one squad, I guess. If you're playing Chaos, give them the Archangel Shard from Mega Sword via Chaos. You can't give... The Angel's Ascendant stratagem only lets you play... It doesn't let you have a relic, it lets you have a special issue war gear. And the special issue war gear is Mastercrafted Weapon, Digital Weapons, the Flesh Render Grenade, or Quake Bolts, right? You can't use Angel's Ascendant to give them an actual relic from like the Space Marine Codex or the Blood Angels Codex. It's just that one page of special issue war gears you get access to. Okay, I've been using a Thunderhammer Infernal Pistol for 36 points in my Vanguard Veteran. This is Brewing Biscuits. I mean, that's good as well, yeah. I actually don't think I own one that's got a Thunderhammer and Infernal Pistol. Maybe that's something to add to my to-do list, so when you've only got one model left, he's really going down in a blaze of glory. But I do like the Infernal Pistol Relic Blade combo. I think it is nice. I haven't run it as much, I guess, since -1 damage became so damn prevalent. Like, it just feels like every army has -1 damage at the moment. So, yeah, that's something to be aware of. Okay, so Will says, hey mate, I've been playing around with this 1500 point list and I managed squeezing a little extra out of it. If you wouldn't mind reviewing this instead, the notes above still apply. Happy with all the pointers. Hold on. What am I missing, Will? You sent... Oh, you tried to send it and it was too long, right? So it's just the same. So this is the list. So where are the notes from above? Did you send me some notes from above? I'm not seeing them. Let me see. Okay. If you send something over, I will check it. Alright, so there's a bit of blurb on the submission, but long story short, my new gaming group has said 1500 lists are most common. Any pointers for take all comers? I'm all ears. Okay, so Chaplain on the Bike has the 4 damage weapon. The Tech Marine is kind of good at the double repair, or sorry, the repair of 3. The Assault Intercessors with the Power Fist. I might prefer a squad of Incursors here for the same points, just because Guerrilla Tactics gives them a lot more mobility than Assault Intercessors. The way I play troops usually is to score me points, not really to try and kill stuff. So Guerrilla Tactics might be better here for the 1 CP on the Assault Intercessors. The 2 Dreadnoughts I think are fine. I might be tempted to drop 1 Hunter Killer missile and pick up the rocket pods, just because I prefer to pay 5 points for rocket pods throughout the entire game as opposed to paying 5 points for a one-off Hunter Killer shot. But I mean, I guess if the Hunter Killer kills something in turn 1, or it helps you kill something in turn 1, it can be valuable. 6 Sanguinary Guard with an Infernal Pistol seems fine. 6 Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws and the Relic Blade again seems fine. The Tap Bites with Multi-Melt is... Yeah, the only thing I think is... I feel like I would like a Thunderhammer or 2. So we know Sanguinary Guard are bad against -1 damage enemies. Your Dreadnoughts are good against them. Your chaplain is good against them. The tech marine to an extent is good against them. The attack bites are good. Yeah, like it's basically like you get the 2 multi-meltas, you got 2 infernal pistols, and then you get the 2 dreads, I guess, bringing like 2. Yeah, I mean maybe it's like 10 3 damage weapons. Maybe that's enough in 1500 point games. I like that. I think the choices here. I would either mastercraft this relic blade or give the tech marine quake bolts. I think both of those will give you value, right? I mean, if you run up into -1 damage dreadnoughts, for example, your relic blade is just doing the same damage as a lightning claw. Arguably, it's weaker because you wouldn't get to reroll wounds, so making it 3 damage makes it a bit scarier. The other thing to say is that quake bolts lets you give +1 to combat generally almost anywhere on the board, right? Because the tech marine moves 6, he can advance d6 +1 because we're blood angels. So let's say the average is 3. So basically the tech marine can move 10 and then he can quake bolt 24 inches away. And quake bolts is actually brilliant with redemptors and leviathans. Like I killed Gilliman a few weeks back with my leviathan because we quake bolted him. And I mean the weakness of a leviathan and the redemptor is their weapon skill 3, right? So basically you can say when my leviathan or my redemptor go into combat, they're going to be +1 to weapon skill essentially from quake bolts, and I think that is super valuable. And also if they profile your dreadnoughts, that can help a ton as well, right? So like, you know, the start of the turn you're healing for 3 and then you're giving +1 in the combat. I generally, when I was running my tech marine, I really like quake bolt. Saying that out loud, I was thinking, have I lost quake bolts on my new list? But no, I stopped running the tech marine and I use Angel's Ascendant to give quake bolts to my Eliminator Sergeant, and I think it's really good as well. Ollie says Papa Smurf going down was good to watch. Yeah, we had to kill him twice, didn't we? I've built 5 Death Company, 3 hammers, 2 chainsword pistols. Is that a good squad plus jump packs? Yes, it is a good squad. Most people used to recommend like 1 Thunderhammer per 5, but I think if you're happy to run a smaller squad of 5, 3 for 2 is good for sure. Yeah, I think quake bolts here. It's a very valuable relic. Starting with 6 CP is doable, I think. I would definitely try and swap out the Assault Intercessors. I feel like I would rather have Incursors sitting on an objective in a concealed position, scoring me points, and then later in the game when the battle thins out a bit, use guerrilla tactics to like bring them somewhere else on the board and put pressure. I feel like that's a lot stronger than like Assault Intercessors trying to get across the board terrain to terrain and typically getting picked off and killed. And then I think the Quake Bolts thing would be valuable. I think it's good on the Tech Marine. You could obviously put it on the Assault Intercessor Sergeant if you wanted. And I think it's better on the Tech Marine. But it would work on the Assault Intercessor Sergeant just because the Tech Marine's got a 2+ ballistic skill. And I think that probably fixes any woes I might have with lack of 3 damage weapons. Okay, now let me do a little bit of scoring then. So we have 1 OBSEC unit and it's Assault Intercessor. So I'm going to say it's like a 7. I think if you switch that to Incursors, that probably goes up to 7.5. Yeah, probably. I think it would go up at least a 0.5. Anti-Horde, I guess, is okay. You've got a couple attack bites, you've got Intercessors, you've got Whirlwind, you've got Sanguinary Guard guns, you've got both the Dreadnoughts. I guess in a 1500 point game, Anti-Horde is actually pretty darn good. Anti-Vehicle then, we talked about having like 9 3 damage weapons. We got two good strong Dreadnoughts in there, both with like really solid fists. We've got attack bites and multi-meltas that we can bring in strategically. or we can use strategically rather, and we got a couple of Infernal Pistols in. We've got the nasty Chaplain on a bike. 9.5 maybe. I prefer to run the Chaplain on a bike more defensively, but I think in a 1500 point game going strong on the offense with him is actually fine. We also have mobility wise, then I guess it's just the Dreadnoughts and the Assault Intercessors, but we talked about how we could probably improve that. So probably by picking Incursors, you could probably improve that by like a 0.5 as well. You do have the Fight Last. We don't have Denies, but less of a problem in smaller games. Units for actions, I guess, is generally very good because you've got 3-4 units for actions. The Inceptors obviously got nerfed a bit now, so maybe there's a point off for that. 3 damage weapons seems good. 6 CP and 1500 points seems pretty good as well. Protection against mortals, not so much, but like you can't do everything, so maybe like a 7.5. So I actually think it's a pretty rounded 1500 point list. I've run very similar lists in 2000 point games. Yeah, I think it's well rounded. I'm trying to think if there's anything else major I would switch. I don't think so. Here's a question. If you have access... I do not have access to Whirlwind yet. What would you use instead? I mean, the Whirlwind's unique in that it provides that Fight Last and minus Overwatch. If you don't own a Whirlwind, I just have some other, maybe Incursors or Infiltrators sit on the backfield. How would I step this up to 2000? If this was 6 months ago, Will, I would have added like a Librarian with a jump pack, I guess like 2 more squads of Inceptors, and then maybe like 4 Blade Guard veterans or something. If it was 6 months ago, that's almost what my list looked like, to be honest. Rather than the Chaplain, I run the Captain on the bike because I make him Chapter Master. But now, I mean, I'm kind of experimenting in terms of lists. I'm only running 1 Dreadnought because Tau were a thing that they just blow Dreadnoughts off the table. Yeah, you could proxy a Whirlwind with something. Couple of iPhones sat on top of each other are probably about the same size as a Whirlwind. A spectacle case, you know, Glasses case might be the same size as a Whirlwind. I don't know. A Rhino's the same size, right? Right now, I still do like the Leviathan Dreadnought. I still do like the Relic Contemptor Dreadnought. I have 3 Redemptors, and I'm not running any of them at the moment. I think the points increase from them, and the fact that they already have a couple of weaknesses has kind of killed them for me. I also, in my 2000 points at the moment, I'm running more Thunderhammers in the Vanguard Veteran Squad, and I'm also running Firstborn Terminators with Thunderhammers, and that's basically where one of my Dreadnoughts went. So one of my Dreadnoughts got replaced with Terminators with Thunderhammers. I added 2 squads of Incursors. I added a Librarian. At this point, I'm playing Mephiston, even though I don't think he's super strong. I'm just playing him because I'm trying to... I guess I want to learn the strength of Mephiston. I want to know all his ins and outs and just see how good he is. And then I guess you kind of... Attack bikes are not as good as land speeders anymore because they engage in all front change. So although I own a bunch of attack bikes, I've started painting land speeders. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on a list like this. I mean, I did a video. It's on the channel. I can probably show you what the thumbnail looks like real quick. It would have been in the playlist for competitive army lists. It's this one. It's where I finished 5th at the GT 4 months ago. But, I mean, the scoring system of that GT was kind of dumb. There was only 2 players that went 4-0 and I was one of them. So I don't understand how I didn't manage to finish second. But that list, you can see the dreadnoughts there in the thumbnail. That was that's not a million miles from what you've got there. And the one that I did before was this one, the very next one to it. That was my other list at Clan Wars. I guess I played 2 tournaments close together. So both of them are kind of like, that's what worked well maybe 6 months ago, but where we are right now, you have an unpainted Assault Terminator squad. Well, get painting, because I've been painting them for forever, it feels like. I don't know if you've seen them on my stream, but they're literally sat on the desk in front of me. Like, I'm just painting these guys for what feels like forever. They've taken so much time and effort. They're getting close, but maybe a couple of weeks yet. Yeah. So right now, I think some more durable units like Assault Terminators are maybe a more optimal choice for us. I'm kind of sad about the Redemptors. You know, like, we just don't see them. We do see Redemptors. I just don't think they're as strong as they once were, I guess. Okay. I'm dreading it. Yeah, well, I didn't realize when I started them how long they were going to take me. I'll be painting these Terminators probably for another month. Relic Terminators and Assault Terminators to paint before Tuesday. Alright, well, Ollie, you shouldn't be watching the stream. You should be painting. Alright, let's have a look at this final list for today by Nedwig 747. We are talking about a Captain on a Bike with a Thunderhammer, Chapter Master, Artisan of War, Gift of Foresight, Armor Indomitus, Adamantium Mantle. It would be lovely if you could have an Infernal Pistol. I do think there's an Infernal Pistol value on this captain, but he's decent like this. And if you want to ask any more questions in the comments or on Discord now that you've added me, is like you know, shoot me any questions that you might have, and we can talk about them more. I hope that gave you some food for thought. We then have a Librarian with Might of Heroes and Psychic Fortress. Interesting to pick the Librarian with Psychic Fortress and Might of Heroes, because these are 2 abilities that are going to really help Redemptor Dreadnoughts, but not take Psychic Mastery as a Warlord trait. I guess we'll see what he says, because he has left some comments above. We then have a Primaris Tech Marine. It would have been nice if he was Master of the Forge, but I guess I can understand him just being regular Tech Marine if it's points is the issue. We then have 2 Incursor squads and an Auto Bolt Rifle Intercessor squad. No problem, Will. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you get some good results with some of the changes. Elite-wise, we've got 5 Blade Guard veterans. We got 5 Death Company, 4 with Thunderhammers. 1 would be Chainsword and Bolt Pistol. We got 2 Redemptors, both with the rocket pods and the plasmas. We've got 7 Sanguinary Guard. I guess 3 with swords, 4 with axes. We got 1 Vanguard Veteran with Lightning Claw and a Storm Shield, and then we've got 6. Oh, it's 7 total, all Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. We then have Inceptors with the Bolters, and we have Angel's Exemplar. That was the 1 CP paid on the Captain to give him Adamantium Mantle. It's sad that you can't find the 5 points for that Infernal Pistol on the Captain, and I mean, again, this list looks almost identical to the list that I took to one of those tournaments. I took Vanguard Veterans, I took Sanguinary Guard, I took 2 Redemptors, I took Blade Guard. I don't think I definitely didn't have Death Company. But yeah, I mean, this is so similar to one of the lists that I ran in one of those videos, actually, that we just showed. Alright, let's see what Nedwig is saying. Hey Commander, I submitted a list a couple of months ago, but chapter proof came out and wanted to update my list. Okay, I've purposely left open quite a few points in CB because I want some wiggle room to make changes depending on your feedback. Oh well, you were rating me pretty highly, Nedwig, so thank you for that. I'm coming back to 40k after an extended Age of Sigmar stint, and I have very few games on 9, so really looking at feedback as I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to list building. Okay, rationale for the selections. The hardest question I found in the creation of this was choosing between Redemptors and Relic Contemptors. I like the weapon loadout of the Redemptors more. I think it provides more utility in targets that I can go after, and the higher wound count, but I don't like that they degrade, have a higher points cost, and I don't think Redemptors can be run without a Librarian providing an invulnerable save. I actually kind of feel like I don't think they can be run without the Librarian with Psychic Mastery, because Psychic Fortress is fucking unreliable. And I know firsthand it's unreliable because at tournaments, I've needed it to go off without Psychic Fortress, and it's failed, and the rerolls failed. And both times it was like, man, if I had Psychic Fortress, this would have been gone off and I would have done a lot better. So in that Clan Wars tournament that I showed on the stream, I think I might have gone 5-0 if I'd had a Psychic Fortress, Psychic Mastery Librarian. Would love your opinion on what you think would be better, because Redemptors with a Pocket Librarian is quite a lot of points. It is, but it is good. Especially if you've got the Tech Marine backing it up. Like, it is good against a lot of armies. Maybe not so good against Tau right now, but it is good against a lot of armies. Am I excited to fight Drukhari? A bit excited, but also a bit feeling like I don't know what the fuck most of the Drukhari stuff do. I haven't played Drukhari. I've played them 4 times, I think, in 9th edition, and it was all at tournaments. And yeah, I mean, all the games at tournaments were close. I think I won as many as I lost. So I'm going to have to do a crash course in Drukhari tonight after I get done streaming and then head to bed. So, Captain to do Captain things, buff units, smash things. Tech Marine to buff, heal, dreads, and the potential for Soul Warden. Tech Marine is good with the Soul Warden. Librarian mostly heal to provide the invulnerable to dreads. Can redeploy to the front lines with Wings of Fire if needed. He can't redeploy anymore with Wings of Fire because that requires you to have the core keyword, and the Librarian will not have the core keyword. This will be a Librarian with a jump back, but yeah, I think you need to spend the 25 points here and make him the Chief Librarian and give him Psychic Mastery for the Warlord trait. And his third power, at that point, there's 2 good options. There's like Null Zone to obviously turn off enemies' invulnerable saves, and the other one is the one that I never pick, Veil of Time, to basically give a friendly unit within 16, and it doesn't need to be visible to the Psyker, a reroll to their advance and charge for this phase, which can be good if you've got units arriving from Deep Strike, right? Sorry, where are we? So Incursors are for border control. Intercessors provide very limited chip damage, and it is very limited. They sit on a backfield objective or advance if necessary. If you have a third squad of Incursors, I would honestly run them, or make these into a 95-point squad of Assault Intercessors. I would prefer that. And give your captain on the bike the Infernal Pistol, because I think the Infernal Pistol with the Gift of Foresight, free reroll to hit and wound, is actually really good, because it's almost like an auto-hitting, auto-wounding Infernal Pistol. Now, I did a video a little while ago of, I compared the damage of Incursors, Assault Intercessors, and Intercessors, and when you actually compare their damage output, you'll actually find that you said the Intercessors do very limited chip damage, and it is exactly that. You'll actually get more damage out of... Assault Intercessors will do the most damage, and if you get into melee, Incursors will do more damage than the Intercessors. So, based on the fact that like we're a melee chapter, I mean, I guess the only reason to have these guys is to sit on the backfield. I guess that's fine. At that point, you might be better just giving them heavy bolt rifles if you're not expecting them to move much. Ideally, you'd look at probably replacing them with something like a Whirlwind, because the Whirlwind gives you the ability to make enemies fight last, and also gives you the ability to turn off Overwatch. Both can be pretty darn useful, but Intercessors are kind of a meh unit at best. You have the Blade Guard veterans for holding the oath and going center board, and 6 months ago I would have agreed with that. I really would have. I took Blade Guard veterans in both those tournaments actually that I linked, and I would typically go center board and try and score Oath of Moment with them. What I've been doing more recently is just deep striking Terminators into the middle of the board and doing it that way, and usually it only takes like 1 or 2 turns to get to the middle of the board, right? But far too many games I lose too many of my Blade Guard veterans. I have a lot of other units like Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, Vanguard Veterans, similar to you, that they're all hidden. Inceptors, I guess, are deep striking. These units are all hidden, leaving probably like 1 or 2 units that are not hidden. Typically, the Blade Guard Veterans, and then the enemy shoots everything they have into them. I play the transhuman points, and they still die. So I painted my Blade Guard Veterans in gold. I made them look really cool, and I just not sure I see a space for them in the army right now. But some people really like them. Reziel actually made a good point a few weeks back that he thinks Blade Guard Veterans are a much more defensive unit now. Like, have them sitting in the backfield, holding objectives, being difficult to shift and move. And I would do that now. I'd be okay running like a 3-man squad of Blade Guard Veterans to do that. I think if they're in cover and they're on a 1-up save, I think that's actually legitly good for 105 points. It's 9 wounds. They're going to be difficult to shift. They've got an invulnerable save. But going middle, I don't like it anymore. But take it as what you want. I mean, there's been a huge debate on this channel about if Blade Guard Veterans are a good unit for going centreboard. I see Reziel just left me a comment. Blade Guard Veterans did used to be defensive enough to watch the middle. Now I think there's no unit that can do that in Blood Angels. Terminators are only allowed to get there because they're off the board. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So it's an ongoing debate. That's the 2 cents. If you think they're defensive enough to go middle, try it. But you're probably going to end up like where I was, where like you just keep losing them. And I tried everything. I tried putting them in the Pulsar with the Shield Dome. I tried, transhuming them, all sorts of nonsense. They always just die. And then the other problem is right now is they're only 2 damage on their swords. There's a shitload of -1 damage stuff going around, which makes them difficult to be effective into some armies as well. Wasn't sure if I should go with Sanguinary Guard or Vanguard Veterans to split the difference and went one of each. That's what I'm running at the moment. Vanguard Veterans go after -1 damage targets. Yep, with their lightning claws makes sense. Or targets that I don't get the +1 to wound. Yeah, totally makes sense. Sanguinary Guard go after the non-1 damage scary targets. Yeah, I like your reasoning. That's probably pretty much my reasoning as well. Death Company will be there to force my opponent to make deployment decisions that they don't want to make. I know that Furlong Fury Death Company will likely get screened, and that's fine. It's mostly there to threat and make deployment choices that they don't actually want to make. I have no idea how many Thunderhammers this unit should have, or they should have some Infernal Pistols in there as well. Because you have Chapter Master rerolls, and you can give them Chapter Master rerolls in turn 1 and basically reroll all their hits. Probably quite expensive to have 4 Thunderhammers. You'd probably be okay with 3. I think that would still be a decent threat if you need the 15 points elsewhere. But 3 or 4, I think, is the right number for a 5-man Death Company squad. I know I've seen some tournament players actually run 5 Thunderhammers, but I just think that's getting too expensive. So, personally for me, 3 or 4... you might be okay with 2, but I think 3 or 4 is the right number here. I don't run Death Company like this. I prefer to run Terminators because I think they're more durable, and durability is maybe king, but making the opponents have to react to your Forlorn Fury Death Company or be prepared for it is obviously generally a very good play, especially because you can give them Chapter Master rerolls, and if you don't know, you can actually, even though you don't have a Priest, you can put them into Assault Doctrine in turn 1 by using Adaptive Strategy. I might be calling that one wrong. I'm pretty sure it's called Adaptive Strategy. Use the stratagem in your command phase. I guess you got to remember to do it at the start of your turn. If a Blood Angels Warlord from your army is on the battlefield and a Combat Doctrine from your army is active, select a core unit, which Death Company are, until the start of the combat phase. Each time it makes an attack, all the doctrines are essentially active. So you can get, what do Death Company get? They get like 2 attacks, 1 for charging, 1 for being Death Company, so that's 4 attacks. You put them in Assault Doctrine, so they're on 5 attacks. So you get 20 Thunderhammer attacks, hitting on 4s, but you've given them Chapter Master rerolls, so you reroll everything, so you get 75% hits, and you get the -3 AP because you're in the Assault Doctrine. You also, we should probably talk about the Tech Marine. He's a perfect example for someone that could take Quake Bolts. You give them +1 to hit, so you could have your Thunderhammers hitting on 3s, rerolling everything. I think a 3 with a full rerolls is 88% chance to hit, so you could have 20 Thunderhammer attacks from the squad with an 88% chance to hit. That gives you 16 hits? No, 17 hits, maybe 18 hits. And then, 18 hits, strength 8, -3, 3 damage. I mean, you're killing a lot of shit with that, right? So, yeah, that is a totally valid unit. 3 or 4 hammers is the correct number. What was your other questions? Inceptor's not going to lie, they're mostly here because I have the points and own the models. For sure, they have a role that can deal with chaff and they can be annoying for my opponent, and the threat of deep striking to shoot chaff off objectives and steal them. Would be fine for swapping this for a whirlwind, though, if you think that's a better option. Also, no, I shoot someone with Quake Bolts, but who? The Tech Marine will get good value out of the Quake Bolts because his ballistic skill of 2+. I think that's your best option here, really. Yeah, probably. I mean, you could put them in the Scepter Sergeant, but you mentioned the Whirlwind is an interesting thing, right? Because, like, if you bring the Whirlwind, then you can, because it's going to cost you 5 points more. But if you bring the Whirlwind, you can have it obscured on a backfield objective. It's one objective you don't need to worry about for the entire game, and it'll probably score you like 15 or 20 points over the course of the game. You know, if it holds that one objective for the whole game, that's probably, 4 times 4, 16 points. So, and it does some firepower. It's not as good as at clearing models as Inceptors are, obviously, but it's not bad. Sorry, there's a few comments I need to catch up on chat. Brendan says, I used to hold a backfield objective against Tau Buddy. Works well. Is that... And I use Vanguard Veterans for that now. Okay. Friend played a local Blood Angels player and March Bladeguard down the middle. Only got there with Selfless Healer and the Chief Apothecary. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you've got a priest, you can march right down the middle, right? Reziel only likes large units of Death Company. Maximum threat and ablative wounds. Also more value out of the strats. Yeah, I guess that is true. I don't dislike a 5-man Death Company run like this. With the 10-point reduction, I think they're decent. 2 Dreadnoughts and no Master of the Forge. It's worth making 20 point space for that. It is to get the Dreadnoughts to get a full heal of 3. You could probably maybe drop the rocket pods on the Dreadnoughts. That could be some way to save a little bit of points. You might need to drop 1 Thunderhammer on this Death Company as well to get some more points around. And because I feel like you need 25 points here for the Librarian to make him, and you need the Chief Librarian, right? So you need 25 there. The Tech Marine, potentially he gets value if you add 20. Chapter Master would get value if you could add an Infernal Pistol, so that's 50 points. So 50 points is difficult. This list worked a few months ago before Redemptors went up like 10 points. So now I don't think you can do everything. So you need to pick. I think if you want to make the double Redemptors work, you probably have to ditch the Infernal and the Chapter Master. Do Chief Librarian and Master of the Forge, Tech Marine. It is going to cost you 40 points. So swap out one of these squads for a cheapest squad of Assault Intercessors. Maybe lose one of these Thunderhammers. Maybe lose the Rocket Pods. So that would be like 35 points total so far. Swap the Inceptors out for the Whirlwind when you get it. And then you need to find 10 points. That's the tricky thing. Yeah, it's so tricky, actually. I don't know where you find 10 points. But, yeah, I mean, my advice is Chief Librarian with Psychic Mastery is needed if you want to run double Redemptor. And I've played it at tournaments at the highest level with this exact combination where it's Chapter Master on a bike, Librarian, Primaris, Tech Marine, and double Redemptor. And that was that first video. I'm actually going to look at that real quick, just to remind myself what I played. It's like 6 months ago now. I think it was September Clan Wars was. Let me see. So I played Captain on the Bike, The Differences in Infernal Pistol. I played Librarian, Might of Heroes, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress, Psychic Mastery. I played a squad of Infiltrators, 7 Sanguinary Guard, 6 Vanguard Veterans. I had a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant, and an Attack Bike and a Whirlwind. And then the second detachment, because this was a patrol in Vanguard, was the Chaplain on the Bike, Mantra of Strength, the Tech Marine, Master of the Forge. Obviously, I didn't own the Primaris Tech Marine he got added after this tournament because I realised he was better. I played 5 Blade Guard veterans. I played 2 company veterans. I played the double Redemptor and a Tap Bike and then Scepters. So the difference was in this list, I actually didn't have. I only had 1 squad of troops, and I think I ended up, and I guess I had kind of lower command points, but everything else is kind of the same. So I had less troops, but I had some Tap Bikes in there. And I had a chaplain as well. I had 4 characters. It was after this tournament that I decided 4 characters was too many because it gave away, like, people were typically able to pick Assassinate against me and get, like, a decent amount of points reasonably regularly. And also, I felt like, I think battalions are stronger than the Patrol and Vanguard just because I felt like I was kind of CP starved in this a little bit. But, yeah, hold on. I'm going to check the other one that I had just after that, actually, as well. Where is it? So when I went 5th at the GT, that was when I moved to, so same, Captain on the Bike with pistol, Librarian. This time the Librarian had an Infernal Pistol. We got the Primaris Tech Marine in, and we got Soul Warden onto him. I guess this was before I was running Quake Bolts. I didn't realise at this point probably how good Quake Bolts was. Assault Intercessors, 2 Incursors, 5 Blade Guard Veterans, 2 Relic Contemptors, both of the Twin Volkite covering. It was actually after this tournament that I added a Cyclone Missile Launcher to one of the Relic Contemptors. I was going to run 2 of them because I thought that, well, I basically lost the final game because, like I said, the Volkite coverings are too swingy. I also ran a Redemptor. I ran Terminators and Sanguinary Guard. No Vanguard Veterans here, and I actually didn't like this list. Even though it finished like 2nd at the tournament, essentially, I didn't like it because I felt like I didn't have enough melee threat with the Terminators and the Sanguinary Guard. And I guess that's what you get if you go 3 Dreadnoughts. So I prefer 2 Dreadnoughts, and I went back to 2 Dreadnoughts after this. And basically 2 Dreadnoughts and like 4 combat units. But it was after this tournament that I finally dropped the Blade Guard Veterans as well, because like I said, I kept finding them not doing what I wanted them to be doing, and I had Terminators in that list too, so I was kind of doing both. Okay, so you can see like there's a lot of similarities, right? Like, so I like the two Dreadnoughts. I like Sanguinary Guard and Vanguard Veterans. If you're running Death Company, that's fine. Blade Guard, I think the idea of going for Oath with them is maybe a slight mistake. Inceptors are very decent, but I do like the Whirlwind. Incursors I like a lot. I often find my Incursors do decent work for me. I think the Psychic Fortress or Psychic Mastery is really important on the Librarian. And I think the Quake Bolts is also really important on the Tech Marine. I don't know if I did Quake Bolts in that tournament, would I have done much better? I don't think Quake Bolts was the reason I lost. I think that I'd gone too heavy on the swinginess of Dreadnoughts. I guess my last point before I score this list is, do I think Double Redemptor with Librarian, because it's gone up quite a bit in points, is still strong? Yes, I think I do, but I think I prefer... I was going to say, I think I prefer the Relic Contemptors with, like... Well, I like the Cyclone. I think my problem... And obviously I ran Redemptors at 2 tournaments, and the thing I just don't like is that the plasma is swingy. And at tournaments, every CP counts. And if you have to be spending CP to re-roll the number of shots for a weapon, it's really fucking annoying. Or it's, it's just something that I generally don't like. So I guess that's why, yes, it kind of sucks to have to pay 1 CP to include the Relic Contemptors. But if you do that, then you're not so reliant on Psychic Fortress, right? Because they have their own vulnerable save. So that's why I guess some people in Steel Rain, we haven't seen Steel Rain for a while, but he used to always say Cyclone Missiles, Volkite covering, and like a Chain Fist on the Relic Contemptor he thinks is better than the Redemptor, because probably just is more reliable in the number of shots. It's kind of got just as good, if not better, range. And you know, if you don't go first and you can't obscure those dreadnoughts, then those dreadnoughts can take a lot of damage while there's no invulnerable save up on them. And then obviously there's no profiling on the dreadnoughts as well, meaning if they're running around on one wound, they're still operating at full profile. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this list. In this list, I actually think the dreadnoughts would actually work the midfield much better than the Blade Guard veterans. I mean, they certainly can, especially against psychic armies. If you give the Tech Marine Soul Warden as well, then you've got your dreadnoughts essentially like healing for 3, 5 up shrug against mortals, 5 up invulnerable save. I mean, it's solid. I mean, like I said, I did well in both those tournaments with similar stuff like this. I've just moved a little bit away from both. But I'm not sure I've found anything particularly strong yet. I'm just trying out different things because the Tau and the Custodes Codex is quite honestly are fucking nightmares. Steel Rain has lost interest because of the state of Blood Angels right now. Oh, that's so sad, man. That's why I wrote an email to Games Workshop. Someone tag him in the Discord to that email that I wrote and see if he reads it at least. Yeah, it's tough. I feel like I've been saying for a year now it's tough to be a Blood Angels player, and we had this conversation actually today in Discord in the members room where like someone was saying that they hate when people say like, you know, you just have to wait your turn for your army to be good again. Like, I just wish they could just do a better job of balancing stuff altogether. GW wants Blood Angels players to play Custodes. Well, it's not happening because we're the ultimate boys in gold, David. But I appreciate the comment. That's actually made me sad of how Steel Rain feels. Yeah, I mean, I've just been powering through it, but like, I was feeling a little bit defeatist on some of when I played against the Tau list, and like I said, I think I said on one of the streams the other week, Andrew's desperate to come on the channel again and play me as Tau because he knows he'll win. Like, I don't want to big myself up too much, but I know I'm a better player than Andrew, right? Like, I know tactically I'm a better general, but like, he just wants to come on and play his Tau list because he knows like it'll just win. And it's like, I don't know why they've let the balance get to this point, like where it just feels like they don't care. And I guess it can be really frustrating. Do you think it's worth us all emailing Games Workshop? I mean, you can try, Robert. I emailed them like this long ass email saying like, do you know that Blood Angels have a 33% win rate right now? We're literally the worst win rate of all the codexes that have had their 9th edition update. We're the worst win rate in competitive play. And like, I haven't been able to go to any GTs this year because I just had the new baby. So, and like, I'm not going to go in the next 6 months because, like, it's really difficult for me and my wife at the moment. Like, I wouldn't say we're struggling, but like, when you've got a new baby and they're 3 months old, they're really needy. You can't put them down. I'd say what I'm struggling with is like, I can't get any work done, right? Like, and I guess what I mean, like with my other kid, she's young enough where like I could say to her like, you know, you go play in the corner, daddy's going to do some work. Or I guess like a little while ago, I could hold her or bounce her on my knee, you know, and like have my hands round on the keyboard, like doing work. Whereas like our new baby, if you try and lie him down at the desk and do some work, he just screams. And it's like, it's really frustrating because sometimes like I want to do work. For example, like I've got tons of work to do on the painting competition stuff to get it ready so we can like do a stream and announce the winners. And like I literally can't do any work when I'm looking after Michael because I have one hand and I I just can't work one-handedly, I guess, like trying to reach across this baby that's just screaming all the time. So I'm not going to a GT for like 6 months, right? Because it's hard enough as it is. I don't want to be like to my wife, like, hey wife, I'm leaving you all weekend with these kids while I go play Warhammer. So I'm not going to a GT till there's one in the town that I live in that's coming up in November. So I think that's the one I'm going to aim for, right? But like if Blood Angels are on a 30% win rate when that GT comes round, the chances of me playing Blood Angels are like, I'll just go buy the Black Templar Codex and play them because they have like a 55% win rate or something. And it's like, I'll just play red Black Templars. And I'll have a 5-up invuln on my entire army, and I'll have a mini transhuman on my entire army. And there's very few things I'll lose, right? Like I'll maybe lose my I'll maybe lose like Gift of Foresight, and I'll maybe lose like the Sanguinary Guard, which I could replace with more Vanguard veterans or something. But like yeah, it's tough to hear that people have got frustrated enough to just give up on Blood Angels at the moment. But Games Workshop made this big song and dance, right? About like, hey, we're going to do balance updates every 6 months, and we're calling it seasons, and it's going to be very exciting. And it's like the balance update rocked around, and it was like Blood Angels getting nothing, -2 points on Death Company and -15 points on Mephiston. I mean, I've been playing Mephiston. I've literally been playing Mephiston every game. And like people will say to me like, why the fuck are you playing Mephiston? He's trash. And I was like, well, I mean, I kind of know he's trash and I know he's got problems, but like we don't have a whole ton of other options. I mean, I guess I can use the Firstborn Librarian, but it's it's really frustrating that our rules are in such a backward place. So yeah, it's really sad to hear that about Steel Rain actually. Jim's trying hard not to lose interest as well. It's an uphill battle. It's tough to beat any Marine faction currently, but heck, I still play for fun. Yeah, I think that's where I was trying to go with it, Chris, was like, I was just trying to use units that are fun. Like, after I finish painting these Terminators, I'm probably going to paint a Land Raider Crusader. I've owned it for about 10 years. I've never finished painting it. I'm going to paint it, and I'm just going to run stupid things like a Land Raider Crusader full of Terminators or Centurions or something, right? Hellbreck is a combat monster, he'd beat Seth. Yeah, I mean, like, if I was going Black Templars, maybe I would buy one of their characters or something, so that I'd probably paint them red, though, right? I use a Librarian Dreadnought with Iron Resolve for Blood Angels Librarian choice. That is a good choice. Just, there's a lot of things that can one-shot that Librarian now, which makes me scared. You know, like, you pay 160 points, and they can just kill it in one hit. I suspect Black Templar is informative of Marines 9.5. Yes, I mean, if Blood Angels got anything like the Vows that Black Templar's got, where we can pick some things that are like army-wide buffs that are going to improve us for the entire game, like, I don't know, like, you know, +1 to all your save on jump pack units or something like that, then it could actually be really good, but yeah, it's tough right now, isn't it? It's if you see Steel Rain, tell him I'm asking for him. I feel sad that he's not excited or he's lost interest. Right, Nedwig, 2 squads of Incursors and the Intercessors. I guess we're looking at like an 8.5 for troops. Anti-infantry horde. We've got a couple of Redemptors, we've got Inceptors, we've got some Sanguinary Guard fire, we get some other fire from like our Incursors, and I'd say like anti-horde in this list is maybe like an 8.5, maybe it's an 8. But maybe we'll go 8.5. 3 damage weapons. Then we've got the 2 Dreadnoughts, the 4 Thunderhammers here, and the Thunderhammer on the Captain. I guess arguably these 2 have as well. So it's about 12 3 damage weapons. It's slightly low. Overall, though, I guess the damage output's probably good. Sanguinary Guard, Vanguard Veterans, Blade Guard, Death Company, maybe a little bit weak against -1 damage enemies, and that both the Sanguinary Guard and the Blade Guard will suck, I guess, suffer and probably suck against those -1 damage enemies. So maybe having like, yeah, I mean, does picking Blade Guard now mean you can't pick Sanguinary Guard and vice versa, or like, you know, 3 months ago when Steel Rain was around saying, like, you know, you need more Sanguinary Guard, you should have 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard. Well, I mean, now you can run Sanguinary Guard in some enemy units and just bounce off. I think it's going to be like a 9. Mobility-wise in this list is pretty good. The Tech Marine, the Intercessors, and the Redemptors aren't, but overall it's probably like an 8. And specialization, so he doesn't have the Fight Last. He does have Deny, 1 Deny. If you upgraded to Chief Librarian, you would get 2. So it'd probably be worth upgrading, like we said many times before. Units for actions is fine. We've got 3, 4 if you include the... you get 6, I guess, if you include the small squad of Inceptors. I guess how good they are actually at actions now in Act 1 is debatable. CP-wise is... Yeah, he started with a lot. I think he had 11, and he was going to spend some, and he could get protection against mortal wounds. So I think this is probably like, as it stands, like a 7.5, but I think there's a few improvements that we talked about. We could get Soul Warden in there, we could get the Chief Librarian in there, we could get Quake Bolts in there. I mean, this is about as solid a list as we can make probably right now. Like if you're trying to play to our strengths, then this sort of plays to like the strength of, like, you've got 4 combat units and you've got the 2 dreadnoughts backed up by the Tech Marine and Librarian, right? So you've got like 2 solid cores. And obviously I piloted this very similar 6 months ago now to some decent tournament positions. But obviously, the meta has moved on and it's a bit harder than it once was. But Nedwig, for returning to the hobby, I think you've got a very good start. And maybe you can push on from there. Gitley says, I'll only be back on Blood Angels as it's the only full army I own. I have a team tournament in 2 weeks that I signed up to long ago. After that, I'll be backing out. I'm sorry to hear that, Gitley. Yeah, it's tough. I've just gone for a theme, so the whole army is Gravis, because that's how you like the look of it, Ben. I mean, fair enough. Foz says, is someone playing Marines... if someone playing Marines and it's not Deathwatch, Black Templars, Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, best to make their own successor chapter? I mean, successors... successors are probably okay, but I think at the moment, like when I was looking a few weeks ago at 40k stats, because that's the website that shows you win rates, right? Where is it? Is it Faction Report Breakdown, I think is what you click. Iron Hands are apparently on a 60% win rate. Then after that, you've got Deathwatch on 48%, Space Wolves on 49%, Black Templars on 49%, Salamanders on 47, White Scars on 45. That's surprising. I thought White Scars might be higher. Dark Angels on 44, Raven Guard on 39, Blood Angels on 39, Imperial Fists on 35. So yeah, I mean, Black Templars are literally 10% better than Blood Angels. And I'm surprised Iron Hands, I guess maybe there's not that many games getting played with Iron Hands maybe. But still, Iron Hands are still way up there. I guess there's probably edge cases where they can be really good just because of their doctrine manipulation. And I guess Dreadnoughts are really good on Iron Hands as well, because they offer a double profile for the number of wounds, right? Okay, 40k stats hasn't been updated, I heard. Yeah, I mean, last time I checked, Blood Angels was actually lower than 39. The Reddit article that I linked to Games Workshop, and like I emailed Games Workshop some feedback, and the Reddit article that I linked said that we're at 33% win rate. Regardless, tomorrow night, Blood Angels versus Drukhari. Come tune in, 7:30. What was Drukhari's win rate on 40k stats? I'm guessing it was pretty high, was it? Dun dun dun, they were right up there at the top. 63%. Okay, so we're literally going to play Drukhari, which are the highest win rate army tomorrow night. So come watch me get bashed tomorrow night, I guess. I've never actually played James before. I've seen him play Andrew. So someone new that's never been on the channel before. So if you could make him feel welcome when he's there, I would appreciate it. And James actually has his own 40k blog, I guess, where he does a lot of Drukhari stuff on there. So if anyone wants to check him out, there'll be a link in tomorrow night's video description. Thanks again for watching, guys. As always, you can submit your lists if you want to submit them, and I do always appreciate the comments and the chat and the likes on every stream. It's very much appreciated. And I will see you guys tomorrow night, 7:30. Don't fancy playing Blood Templars before. I don't own the Black Templars Codex. Up until now, up until like probably a month ago, I had zero interest in playing any other faction ever than Blood Angels. I love my Blood Angels. I love painting them. I've been building this collection for the best part of like 20 years. The only thing is, like, do I want to go to a GT where, like, because at the last GT I went to, it was so difficult to get the wins. Like, I had to play out of my skin to get to that top table. And so many more powerful codexes have come out from that. Or since then. So, alright, and nice to see some new people in chat tonight. I do appreciate you hanging out. Pana, I think, was one of the new people. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being there. Blood Angels are still great. Yeah, I mean, we are. I do love Blood Angels. I'm not changing anything. I just think that if you do look at my list and wonder why the hell John's playing stuff, it's because basically probably what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to find like an edge case Blood Angels list that can beat things and surprise people, because I know at the Manchester GT that's on literally right now, one of the guys, I think the guy that's literally playing for first place, I beat him at that Clan Wars tournament because I was playing Blood Angels, and I think he saw Blood Angels and thought like, oh, Blood Angels are trash right now, I'll easily beat them. But like, I had a well thought out list with strategies and synergies, and you know, like, I won the game. So I think that's probably why you see Terminators in my list. That's probably why you're seeing stuff like Mephiston. We're going to try edge case things that people aren't used to, because I think that's the best way to win as an underdog. Yeah, exactly, Arkan. Alright, guys, we will see you tomorrow. By the blood are we made strong. Thanks so much for becoming a member again, Camille. There's a better time coming for the Blood Angels. A member for 12 months, Camille. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate you that. Wow, we haven't had too many members for 12 months, but thank you for that. Good night then, brothers. See you tomorrow. Peace. And I will fight to the last man against Drukhari. You know I will. Good night.